Welcome to the Alternative Hit Parade with your host, Evan O'Kelly.
Hi, folks, and welcome to another episode of the podcast. My guest today is Alain Whyte from London, originally in England, but now resides in Los Angeles, California. Known as a guitarist, but I think you'll find through the course of the interview today, he has plenty of other strings to his bow. Singer, songwriter, composer, an all-round nice guy. Al, how are you doing?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
Not too bad. How's the weather in Los Angeles? Looks nice and sunny.
Well, it's kind of sunny and partly cloudy. We've had storms, rainstorms, funny enough, out here recently, last few days, and there's a nice blanket of snow up on the mountains. So it's pretty cold here. It's winter finally hitting LA at the moment.
All right. So you're able to wear your Crombie coat for a change, are you?
Ah, it's nice, yeah. Jacket weather, you know.
Yeah. Do you miss that is there anything you miss from London, like the weather, or are you quite happy in the sunshine?
To be honest, you know, I don't. I mean, obviously I miss cultural things, and I miss my close friends, and I miss my family. But other than that, I really don't miss it at all. I think this warm and sunny climate actually suits me a lot better and keeps me in a much better mood.
Okay.
I used to get seasonal depression stuff back in the UK, you know?
Yeah.
Brutal in the wintertime.
Yeah. So you need the sunshine and the light all the time, I guess.
I think so, yeah. Well, we can all do with a bit of light, can't we?
True. Very true. So we're going to have a little chat about your life in music, and we're going to talk about a new project that you've put together, which I think is going to excite a lot of people who are fans of yours. You've put together a group of old friends and comrades, and you've kind of gone under the banner of your own name, but it's something that I think a lot of the Morrissey fans who obviously know you are going to love. So we might talk a little bit about that later on, but I'd just like to start really at the beginning of your story. Obviously, more widely known for working with Morrissey, but you've got a list of credits for Madonna, Khalees, Sheryl Crow, Chris Brown, the Black Eyed Peas, to name a few. It's a bit of a different contrast to being known for playing with for want of a better term, an indie pop legend, and it's a bit more on the, hip hop pop side of things. How does that work out? And was it a challenge, or was it?
I think I was setting myself up for the challenge, because it's not really my forte. It's not really my style. But what happened was I met up with a team of songwriters here in Los Angeles called Free School, that was headed by a top line writer called Jean-Baptiste, who's got incredible credits with huge artists like the Black Eyed Peas, etc., Chris Brown, mention a few. And we became pals, and he just said, like, hey, do you want to team up with us? We're going to try and pitch some stuff for Madonna and Rihanna. I was like, oh, all right then.
Yeah.
And so me and this other writer and John, the other writer being Ryan Winyada, but it goes under the name of Ryan Replay. I just started messing about. Jean was like, can you come up with a banjo idea? And I was like, yeah, well, I've never played the banjo before, but I just started messing around with this banjo that was in the studio. We kind of like looped apart from that, and that went on to become a song called Love Spent for Madonna.
Okay.
So that was pretty mental, and then, you know, I got asked, I did all the guitars on Don't Wake Me Up, the big Chris Brown hit. And I met Chris Brown. Funny enough, he was actually a really, really nice bloke, you know.
Yeah.
I know he's a bit infamous for some things, but he was super nice to me anyway. But
Yeah.
You won't want to mess with the guy. He's a pretty big lad, I say.
Yeah. So was it obviously a big difference from playing with Morrissey, I suppose, to working with all these, you know, pop stars, I suppose, Sheryl Crow and Khalees, you know, different, completely different environment, I would have thought.
It is, you know, it is a different environment. I mean, it was funny. I was doing a session, and you know, in walks in Justin Bieber, you know what I mean? And like I was doing a session for will.i.am, and I just tracked acoustic guitars, and then I walk out of the booth, and in the booth walks Justin Bieber, you know, he's gonna top line or sing on it, you know. It's kind of like, oh wow, this is pretty mental, you know.
Yeah. So that
I like that challenge, you know. It's nice to have that, but to be honest, you know, my heart's still strongly set in everything I grew up with, like, you know, starting with square one rockabilly, but mainly alternative music. You see, my take on alternative music in the 80s, you know, I got into bands like The Cult, and I loved the Damned Phantasmagoria album. That was an album I didn't mention as you know, one of my great, you know, one of the best albums. And I liked some of the Mission stuff, and even though these guys, they didn't look anything like rockabilly or anything, but in my way, I was like, well, they're expressing themselves, and I guess they're the fourth or fifth generation of alternative music. You know, the way I see it is alternative music started with the likes of Johnny Cash,
right,
Carl Perkins, and all that, because they broke away from the norm, which was like big band music, and you know, and really, you know, all these bands through the years are touring in the same fashion as the first wavers, Johnny Cash, you know, Carl Perkins, Roy Orbison, etc., Jerry Lee Lewis. So yeah, I mean, I grew up on a lot of alternative music, like the Smiths, the Mission, the Cult, the Damned, and then I loved the Jam and I loved the Clash. You know, I grew up with a lot of punk stuff too.
So a mixed bag of tastes of different genres of music.
Yeah, but I think, ironically enough, you know, the Cult Love album was a big influence on me in guitar tone and sound, because I just thought there's one guitarist, Billy Duffy, and he's just making this huge sound. You know, he's filling like two guitar parts in a way. And so that really inspired me, I think, in many ways, along with, you know, the old school guys like Scotty Moore and everything. But
yeah. Because that was one of the questions I had for you, was your first musical introduction as a kid. Was it through your parents, like most people, or your older brother?
Absolutely through my parents. You know, funny enough, when I was 4 years old, I had a 60s turntable. Or my mum had a 60s turntable, and I knew how to put records on.
Right.
So even at 4, I knew how to put a record on this turntable, which is pretty mental. And I remember being scared out of my mind because I put the Doors album on, and it got to like When the Music's Over, and it has that little breakdown.
Yeah.
Where it gets quiet, and he goes, now? And screams. Dude, I remember like being frightened and hiding behind my sofa, kind of like, what the hell is that?
Yeah. As a 4-year-old kid.
Yeah, he was doing his punk rock preacher thing. So, you know, I grew up with, funny enough, a lot of really early 60s R&B with like Ray Charles. And my mum had Ray Charles record. The Hollies, The Who,
Yeah.
The Doors, Hendrix, like pretty cool stuff, you know. So I grew up on all that kind of stuff, but then my brother, you know, in my teens turned me on to Eddie Cochran, Gene Vincent, Buddy Holly, you know. Obviously Elvis died when I was 10.
Yeah.
And that was a big deal. I remember being very upset. And I think that really was the turning point for me. You know, before then it was like, oh, you know, I'd like to play football, you know, I'd like to be a football player.
Yeah.
But I wasn't good, you know, like I was all right, but I wasn't great, you know, I wasn't that good. But when Elvis died, they showed all the early Elvis movies. And it just resonated with me. I was like, oh, that's what I want to be. That's what I want to do.
Yeah. Because I remember.
If only I could be half an inch as good looking as Elvis. Right?
Well, I was going to say, you know, I remember as a teenager myself, a young teenager of, you know, 13 years of age, and seeing you guys on Top of the Pops for the first time. And I always remember switching on the TV on Thursday. It used to be Thursdays, Top of the Pops.
Yeah.
And I think it was the story behind it was that before it was always lip synced, and I think there was this big campaign to get the singers to at least sing live again. And I think it was the first time in a long time that the lead singer actually sang a live vocal. So I remember with a group of mates of mine turning on Top of the Pops and going, oh, I want to check it out, you know, because I grew up watching Top of the Pops as a kid. And a bit like you, there was music in my house all the time. And on Pops Morrissey with all these geezers with quiffs and bowling shorts and turned up jeans and biker boots. And you had this big slick back quiff, which was very reminiscent of Elvis. And I was just like, what the hell is this, you know? And I was 13 years of age. And I think that was my my introduction to it, you know? It was, I was always a big rock and roll fan, but shy of Chris Isaac, Shakin' Stevens, Elvis, and Eddie Cochran, and all the big guys. I didn't know anything about all this underground thing, you know. The Stray Cats a little bit, and Shakin' Stevens, like I say. Yeah. But I always liked that style of music. And then I suppose when I seen this in Technicolor in front of me as a 13-year-old kid, I was like, going, oh, this looks good. It sounds a bit weird, but I kind of like it. And I just remember that being a turning point for me musically, you know. So
I think, it's funny. I don't know how I gravitated to that image. I guess you know, I just did. It became me, I suppose. You know, that was the thing. We all went on there, and we were the real deal. That was kind of how we dressed walking down the street.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like, we weren't trying to be something we weren't.
Yeah.
And I think in some ways, our image was so at odds with all the other artists at the time, because they were all heavily into the indie kind of mod look, you know, the Britpop look, that we totally got overlooked. And I think also because Morrissey had such a legendary status with the Smiths, I think the press kind of just pigeonholed him at that time as the Smiths, best band in the 80s.
Yeah.
But, you know, let's look at Oasis and Blur and Suede and all these other great bands, not dissing them at all. But, you know, we were putting out records in the 90s, and, you know, there was no mention of us being a part of Britpop at all. Morrissey was the godfather of it all.
Yeah, I think him and Paul Weller were the two, weren't they? That were always...
Absolutely. I would say, Paul Weller, absolutely. You know, he and the Who as well. But the Jam were a terrific band. I was a huge fan of theirs. obviously I couldn't go to any of their gigs because I'd get beaten up, you know.
The wrong haircut,
You
yeah.
couldn't go to a jam gig like dressed up as a rockabilly. You would have got battered at the time. It was
Yeah.
it was ridiculous, you know. But I loved the jam. They were for real, and it was funny, you know, when the jam split up. You know, the Jam were like voted, you know, the best live band in England for like 5 years on the bounce through NME. And as soon as they broke up, the Smiths did exactly the same thing. It was like the Smiths walked in the door as the Jam closed it, you know?
Yeah. It was the progression.
Yeah, totally.
So growing up as a kid, then obviously you just mentioned you had an awful lot of mixed influences. Guitar driven, obviously, it all seems to be.
Yeah, it was all guitar driven. And I remember the 80s, and it was like mainly synth driven, you know, and like I just didn't like it.
Yeah.
To be honest, you know, I'm not going to mention any band names because I don't want to piss anyone, but there were some bands that I just thought were dreadful, you know. And when the Smiths came on and did What Difference Does It Make on Top of the Pops, it was so refreshing. It was like, wow.
Yeah.
And they're great. And it was nothing I'd ever heard before, you know.
Yeah. It was a bit like me for when I first seen yous in 91, because before that there was a big heavy dance music thing which I just couldn't relate to at all.
Oh gosh, yeah.
So to me it was the same feeling. I think that this is what I want to be part of this gang, you know.
Nice. Well, you know, another group really early U2, funny enough. I know you probably slate them.
No, I never get that U2 bashing. They're like Marmite over here. You either love them or you hate them, you know.
Oh, really? Interesting. Well, I think they're a great band, you know, and the Edge is such a distinctive guitarist, like Johnny Marr in many ways, but in a different way, you know. And I just remember the early U2 stuff. It was just really loud guitars. I loved it, you know.
Yeah.
Again, he was discovering huge sounds, and being one guitarist.
Yeah.
He was trying to create a huge guitar sound, and I don't know. They're fantastic, U2, man. I don't get the bashing. I mean, I know some people are a bit down on Bono or something, but you know, like they're a great band. You know, you can't knock them. They've been around so long. Do you know what I mean?
I agree with you, and I mean, I think they've probably brought a lot of attention to Ireland that probably wouldn't be there if it wasn't for them, you know. So,
well, they put Dublin on the map, didn't they? Pretty much.
Absolutely, you know. I think probably what the thing is, when you hear a new U2 single coming out, you're like, oh, I can't wait to listen to it. And then it just gets played and played and played and played. And then you kind of get bored with it very quickly because it's almost like it's overplayed. And I think
I must admit, their recent stuff, I don't know, maybe it's too modern and clean production or something. It's just lacking, it's lacking that rough edge, you know?
Yeah.
Guitarists, but it's really, it's lacking that, kind of like the live vibe that's captured on the earlier records, you know.
Yeah, the rawness.
I like the big drum sounds, and I love you know, you could tell, like, say, you know, something like Pride, say, I don't know, or they recorded that in a big old manor or castle or something, in a big room. I saw the video for it, and it's this beautiful wooden room. And you can totally hear that ambience of the room on that record. And that, for me, that seems to be a little bit lost in their new recent stuff, you know.
I think when they kind of broke America, I think that was like a big defining moment for them. They just then became up there with the Beatles and all the Stones and the Bowies, and they were in that bracket of biggest band in the world, you know. And I think sometimes they get overlooked for that, don't they?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, mainstream wise, you could say, yeah. But inventive wise, I would say the Smiths were probably the closest to the Beatles, because no one had no one had done lyrics like Morrissey at that time. And then Johnny Marr's approach with all clean tones was really unique. You know, most bands are out there and they got distortion pedal and delays and they're like just trying to make a huge sound. Yeah. You know, and soloing. And Johnny Marr was kind of anti that. It was more about the bigger picture and the subtleties of multi-layering and stuff. And so they were really, really unique and groundbreaking, just like the Beatles were back in the 60s with albums like Revolver. You know, people forget they were the first band to introduce a drum loop. They did it via looping tape, you know, but Tomorrow Never Knows, that's a drum loop.
Yeah.
It also was the first psychedelic rock album that predated The Doors and Hendrix, because it was recorded near the end of 1965.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. So it was the first psychedelic rock album. Revolver.
Yeah, they were kind of making history, really, weren't they?
Well, they were, and before then it was all singer-songwriters and it was singles, you know. But they came along and went, no, we're going to make albums really, really important, and we're going to break the rules in the recording studio.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they changed the whole way you approach a record. You know, the Beatles really amazing.
Is that something you look to do yourself with your songwriting?
Not really, to be honest. I don't have the patience to try and break the rules in that way, because, you know, they would spend months and months and months. For me, I try to track quite quickly. And here's the reason why, because, you know, when you get excited about something you play, you're usually excited for that first 10 minutes, you know?
Yeah.
So you go and lay it down. I don't try and overthink it. I try and get, like, you know, what I think is a good enough part down, which is maybe a fault of mine. You know, I don't go in and hone it in as such. Sometimes I do, but rarely. I try to capture the feel, because that really is it. You know, I believe that when you record something, if you're not excited by it or you're not feeling it, there's not going to be a great song.
Yeah.
If you're feeling it and it gets you excited, then you know you've written something really, really good.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And is there any examples you could give us that you felt straight away you knew you've hit the nail on the head here, that you knew would go on to be a big fan, a big crowd pleaser? That's probably not a fair thing to say, but one that lingers with people, you know, like a Stone Cold classic.
Well, I guess
if that makes sense.
First, The Gang to Die was just straight up pop song, you know, but I didn't really overthink that. It was pretty quick. You know, then obviously Morrissey cemented that and made that a great pop song, and that's probably one of his most popular solo tracks. In fact, I think it's like third in the all-time Smiths and Morrissey playlist. So, you know, above that would be There Is a Light That Never Goes Out, How Soon Is Now, and then First Gang to Die. For me, that's pretty unreal.
Yeah, to be in the top three is amazing.
Yeah. But you know, whilst other songs were more of a slog, like one that was a real slog was Ambitious Outsiders.
Okay.
To be honest, that was funny. I mean, it took me about 3 days to work on that. And I kind of stopped and came back to it. But my heart kind of wasn't in it, weirdly enough. And I think it's interesting because that wound up being more of a orchestrated track. It wasn't really guitar based. You get what I mean? So when I say my heart wasn't in it, that's not necessarily true. Meaning, no, my heart wasn't in it. It wasn't immediate. It just was like, it was more of a work in progress.
A grower.
You know? Well, yeah, I didn't think anything of it. It was weird. I just did it, and it was kind of like trying to figure out, well, what sounds can I use? Oh, I should use that instrument, and blah de blah. I don't know. It seemed like a slog. It seemed like hard work, that one.
Yeah,
Like
and
it
that,
wasn't immediate. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't like, say, Irish Blood, English Hearts. Like, oh yeah, this is going to be a
yeah,
proper stormer. You know what I mean?
and you can see your rock band influences in Irish Blood with the guitars on that. It has that vibe of a U2 cult type of guitar song, really. I think
Yeah, I
a lot
wanted
of
a
people
big
would say.
sound. Yeah,
Yeah,
I wanted a big sound, you know, on that. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. I think that's it, really. I think for me, I was never great at learning stuff note for note
Hmm.
from other people. I embellished on it, or I heard it and thought, oh, this is how you play it. And so
Right.
I learned it kind of badly in a way.
Right. Okay.
But I think that's what led to me having my own style and then reinventing the wheel in such a way that, you know, it became original in that sense. So
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
glad
Yeah.
in a way that I wasn't, you know, a note for note kind of snob, you know,
Yeah.
that I learned things badly, but ended up finding my own style in that way
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
coming
Yeah.
up
Yeah.
with something completely new that
Yeah. And unique
became my
almost.
style,
Yeah.
you know.
And growing up in London, how important was being in the rockabilly scene in the 80s for you? It was obviously, you know, a formative time for, I suppose, you learning how to play guitar and be in a couple of bands. You were in the Rug Cutters, Born
Yeah.
Bad, the Memphis Sinners. They were all kind of rockabilly, neo rockabilly bands, weren't they?
Yeah, they were. Really, that started out again, you know, when Elvis died, I was 10.
Hmm.
And then I was like, okay, I know what I want to do. But what was weird was when I was 7 to 14, I took piano lessons. My mum got me piano lessons. I always showed signs of liking music.
Yeah.
And so even though I wasn't very good at sight reading, I could learn pieces of music by hearing it, you know.
Yeah.
But piano was a little bit too complex for me. I had a problem separating the left hand and right hand, you know, different rhythms and stuff,
Hmm.
which is interesting because I had trouble multitasking.
Okay.
I was very linear. I was like, okay, I can focus in on one thing. So it made sense later why guitar would become my choice of instrument. But I'm getting to the point of how I ended up getting to guitar. So I had a drum kit and I thought, okay, I want to sing in a rockabilly band. I was like 13. So I'll do a Slim Jim, you know, I'll just hit one snare drum and sing, you know,
Yeah.
in this band after the Rug Cutters. The Rug Cutters only did some demos with Boz
Yeah.
or I think my brother was playing rhythm guitar as well at one point. But nothing really happened with that stuff. And then I carried it on and it was called the Rough Cuts. And then I had Ray Heath, who had played in a band called the Frantics on
Right.
drums.
Yeah.
We called him Rhino Ray was his nickname because he built like a tank. It was great. It was actually really great having him in the band because no one would ever take the mickey out of us.
Yeah.
And we weren't that good. You know what I mean? Well, we were all right, you know, but I was very young. When I say we weren't that good, I wasn't that good because I was very young, you know, still learning the ropes, you know. But he protected us from the tough rockabillys that maybe secretly didn't like us, you know. Were
Yeah.
like, instead of them like hurling abuse at us, they would keep their mouths shut, you know.
Yeah.
Had him, we had Peter Taylor on lead guitar. He was in the Frantics as well. And my mate Matt Radford was on double bass. And Matt's a great guy. Grew up, you know, with him through school and stuff, and we're still good pals. terrific double bass player.
Yeah.
He's done loads of sessions with all sorts of people.
Yeah.
And then that kind of broke up. I had a few rock bands. Well, what happened anyway? In the rough cuts, I ended up ditching the drums and just playing like acoustic guitar. So I had this old 60s Hofner President guitar that I bought for £100. It was electric, you know, I could plug it in, but it was a semi-acoustic, really old school one. It's great, still have it. But that was my first ever guitar. So I was playing rhythm. And then eventually I tried forming some rock bands, like one called Partisan, which wasn't the punk group of the same.
Yeah.
What was it? Memphis Flash was another one.
Okay.
It was like
and they were
bands.
And I rock band style, yeah.
Yeah, and I had this drummer called Ed Kennedy on drums. I don't know what happened to him. I totally lost touch with him. I'm trying to find him. But he lived in Baldock, somewhere in the middle of England, somewhere. And Cyrus Cooper, who played in this really great band called Youngblood.
Right. And
they were really good, 3-piece rock band. And he played bass. But that kind of folded. And it kind of was going. Actually, that was going. The Memphis Flash was going just before I pretty much joined Morrissey, I think from 88 onwards or something. Well, anyway, so I don't know, I carried on the rockabilly thing and I met Spencer and he was like, you know, I've got these guys that I'm playing with, why don't you come in and sing with us? And there was Ian Arrow on double bass and Guy Bolton on lead guitar, who went on to play with Switchblade after Born Bad.
Yeah.
He wrote pretty much all the songs, Guy did. He was a good little songwriter for the rockabilly stuff. He wrote Born Bad, the song Born Bad. And he was a really great guitar player too. But that fell through. And so Spenny was like, oh, you know, the band, I don't know how the band fizzled. I think the band fizzled because Ian Arrow, the bass player, this is really funny actually, he was a magician.
Okay.
For real, like he would do magic tricks and stuff. And for some reason he disappeared. Yeah, he literally did a magic trick and disappeared. No, I think he left the country. I think he went to live in Australia or somewhere like that. I'm not sure.
Right.
And so the band kind of went on hiatus and kind of split up and dissolved. But Spenny and I kept in contact. He said, actually, you know, I know these two other guys, Gary Day and John O'Malley.
Right.
He said, you know, let's sort out a rehearsal. And so we all met up one day, and I remember thinking, Jesus, man, this Gary, he's a bit heavy manners here. I don't want to mess with this dude. You know what I mean? Like he seemed pretty rough from the streets. You know?
Was this was probably after the Frantic Flintstones time with Gaz, was it? So he must have had he must have been tattooed up by that stage, was he?
Oh yeah, he was proper street, you know.
Yeah.
Like, and I didn't know what to make of him at first. It was kind of like a bit wary, you know.
Yeah.
But John O'Malley was super nice, and he was a terrific guitarist. I'm still good pals with him. He's just put out his own solo record right now, which is really good.
Yeah.
And we're talking about reforming the Sinners and doing an album too.
Okay, that's cool.
Fun. Yeah, we're thinking of doing that. It's just getting time to get it done. But yeah, we tracked one song, did a cover of Speed Limit, Tommy Lamb's Speed Limit, and he crushed it. John O'Malley's such a terrific guitar player. He's really good at that stuff. He
seems to never stop, John. He seems to always be doing something, whether it's designing sleeves or, you know, playing in someone else's band. He's a million miles an hour, isn't he?
He's such a lovely guy. I've got nothing but utmost respect for him. And
Yeah.
he's a top guy, and he's a super talented bloke too. So anyway, you know, we started playing and we decided to call ourselves the Memphis Sinners, and we'd do gigs at the, you know, Dublin Castle and at the Dingwalls, you know. And to be honest, it was funny. We'd play Dingwalls and it seemed like nobody gave a rat's that we were playing, and we were playing hearts out up there, you know. But when the band split up, it was really funny. I'd go to the clubs, you know, people come up to me and go, geez, man, you guys were so good, we really loved your band. And I'd be like, really? You know, the Rockabillys are so funny. They watch a band, they just stand there and it's like,
they don't show any enthusiasm nearly.
No, it's like you're playing in front of 1,000 Kevin Spaceys or something. Same facial expression, you know.
Yeah.
Minus the abuse.
Controversial.
No, they literally would just be like really stone and blank. You know, some people got into it, but for the most part, it felt like it went over most people's heads. But I discovered that we were actually quite popular on the Dingwalls rockabilly scene in the 80s. You know, a lot of people really, really liked us.
Right.
No.
So that must have been good to get that feedback off people that, you know, you were actually what you had been trying to do was starting to make an impression.
Yeah, I think it's different now. Like if I was to do it now, it'd be more like out of fun. You know, I wouldn't take it seriously. It's more about fun and about the love of and appreciation of the style of music, you know?
Yeah.
Then it was kind of like I was on a mission. It was like, hey, look at me. Here I am. Up on stage. That's right.
Yeah.
You know it. Do you know what I mean? Like, total attitude, you know? Didn't care. Do you know what I mean? I don't know, but all of this led to kind of where I was going. You know? And then I switched to electric guitar and singing. Yeah. In the Sinners, so I started getting a little bit better on the guitar in that way. But to be honest, you know, the job with Morrissey really
changed everything.
I became more of a lead guitarist, you know, playing and being the main music writer for one of the best lyricists if not the best in the world, you know.
I just want to touch on something that I've never really heard discussed too much about the story with Moz, and in particular those early days when you first start going out on the road live, and obviously the first show was in Dublin. But the time when you went over to America the first time was like Beatlemania or Mozmania, and there must have been some scary stories about fans chasing you up the road and stuff like that.
Yeah, it was crazy, Kevin, because, you know, literally 6 weeks before we played to, you know, 200 people that didn't care
in Dingwalls,
stage or not at Dingwalls, to 15,000 maniacal stage invading, you know, hordes of people. It was just like, what's going on there? You know, actually, I remember the first gig in Dublin. Was it 2,000 people?
It would have been the National Stadium was just under 2,000 people.
Yeah, it was sold out anyway, about 2,000 people. But I remember playing up on stage, and I just heard this like whack, and I thought the neck of my guitar broke. I thought, what the heck? Someone threw something. Yeah, and it was a bunch of freaking daffodils hitting the neck of my guitar, and it really felt like the neck of my guitar had snapped. Do you know what I mean? I was totally oblivious as to what was that, you know what I mean? And then I saw the bunch of daffodils on the floor, and I was like, "All right, okay, wow."
And were you
But
prepared? Were you prepared for that chaos, or was it a real?
we were not. No,
Yeah.
we were not. I think. I mean, we had an idea he had a cult following, but I didn't know it was that maniacal.
Hmm.
And I think it affected all of us in different ways. You know, like it affected Gary in a different way. It affected me in a different way. Spencer in a different way. I think, you know, nothing can prepare you for that. I imagine in the space of 6 weeks, you're playing to people who don't care.
Yeah.
200 people.
Yeah.
So 2,000 to 15,000, like complete insanity, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
It's a big gulf and
Yeah.
a big
Yeah.
thing to deal with at such a young age. I mean, we were 24, you know,
Yeah.
22, 24 or something, you know.
And Boz was obviously a bit used to it, being with the Polecats and being on top of the Pops, and before that anyway. So he was kind of
In a way, yeah, but even he, I don't think even he was prepared for the kind of
the
insanity.
madness. Yeah.
Yeah, like, I mean, Morrissey had complete devotional fans, you know. It was a different kind of devotion.
Yeah.
So
And
then being in a rockabilly band that, you
yeah.
know, like the Polecats, no offense, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you know, it's not, I don't think, I mean, they had their fans, but it's a different kind of devotion, you know?
Yeah, I know what you mean. To a different level, but
Yeah.
so it must have been there must have been some scary moments. I mean, was there any stories you can tell us about not being able to get into the venue because there was too many kids outside, or, you know, getting off the tour bus?
There were some funny moments. I think, you know, Gary and I, we came out of Sunset Marquee one time, and there were a load of fans hanging around or something, or Sunset. They started following us, so we tried to lose them.
Right.
Ran into a dead end.
Yeah.
And we come out sheepishly looking like complete idiots, you know.
Yeah.
And had sign like stuff, you know.
Yeah.
When we try to run away and hide from them. Another time, I think, Morrissey went to the wrong door of the tour bus and got totally collared by about, you know, 25, 30 fans. That was kind of funny. He went to the wrong door and he was like, oh, shoot.
Yeah.
You know. We got some great stories. I mean, I used to do brilliant wind-ups. We used to do great pranks. Like, remember, you know, the first time we arrived in Tokyo, you know, I thought, okay, I've got Spenny's number here. I'm going to ring him up, pretend I'm an angry Japanese bloke, you know.
Right. Okay.
So he picks up the phone thinking like, you know, you just arrived in somewhere completely unwesternized, you know.
Yeah.
So I rang him up and I was like, oh, and put the phone down, right? And he's probably thinking like, who the hell was that? Some Japanese guy's going to come to my door and kill me.
Oh God! Too much time on your hands, huh?
Yeah, totally. And other times there'd be phones in the toilet and stuff. So like you bring up Gaz, you know, and just flush the toilet, you know, and hang up. And he'd just laugh, you know. But other times I did some good ghosty pranks on Spenny, but I won't go too elaborate on those. But
I know Gaz has never forgiven you for the incessant only fools and horses prank. If you remember that one, when Del Boy and Rodney accidentally imprisoned the guy putting the bottles of beer in the back of the van. Gary? That's all he used to say. And I think
I forgot all about that.
And he used to just say to Gary all the time, Gary? And Gaz was like, going, I'm getting sick of this now.
Dude, I totally forgot about that. That's so funny. I do vaguely remember that now. I'd completely forgotten about that. It's funny. Well, another funny moment with the band was backstage at the Birmingham NEC, and there's 3 concerts going on. There's ours, Gary Glitter, and I can't remember who the other person was. There were concerts going on in the venue, And for some reason, backstage in our dressing room, there's a little like wooden block with a microphone on it and a button. And it was like, oh, I wonder what this does, you know. And Gary's like pressing the button, going, hey, 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 like this, you know, just mucking about with it. Next thing, the tour manager came in white as a ghost. He's like, what the hell are you doing? Because do you realize that's going out throughout the entire building? Like not only was it going out through our PA speakers, it was going out through Gary Glitter's concert while he was playing.
Right, okay.
So he's probably singing, I'm a leader, I'm hey, 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 you know, interrupted through his PA.
Oh, God.
Unbelievable. Yeah, the tour manager gave us a right rollicking for that one.
So tell me a little bit, I'm probably giving away too much private information here, but tell me the story about the time you never met Little Richard. Or
so we go into what's known as the legendary Rock and Roll Hyatt Hotel up on Sunset, and there were these rumors that Little Richard lived there or was staying there, like on the 3rd floor, and we just thought, oh yeah, whatever, you know. Lo and behold, I get out. We were staying on the 3rd floor. I get out and I see Little Richard walking into the door of his hotel room. And there were bodyguards outside and I just missed him. So I went up to the bodyguard. I went, excuse me, you know, I'm a huge fan of Little Richard. Do you mind if I could meet him or get his autograph? And the guy went, wait a second. And he just walked in. And he came back out with this religious little book, you know, but inside there was a photograph of Little Richard and he had signed it, something like God loves you.
Right.
Or my, you know, something religious on there, Little Richard, you know, but it was pretty neat. But yeah, I was that close to meeting him in person. So I was a bit devastated, but it blew my mind. You know, you heard rumors of, oh, apparently he lives in that Hyatt hotel on Sunset, and you just think it's a rumor, and lo and behold, there he was.
So you never actually met him in the flesh, but you got a
sign
thing.
I saw him walk into his room. I just missed him, but I was blown away. My jaw hit the floor. I was like,
yeah,
oh, Richard, you know.
And what about the other famous person you met? An awful lot younger you were, but I believe you met Bob Marley back in the day.
I did. You know, that is a crazy, crazy, crazy story. And, you know, funny enough, I love Bob Marley's music, and a lot of people don't know that. I don't know, I like reggae music, you know, I always have done, especially dub reggae as well. Actually, Gaz turned me onto dub reggae stuff. But I loved Bob Marley growing up as a kid, and so did my mum. My mum was a big fan, you see. So, and I remember seeing that famous concert on TV from 1975, you know, which has the legendary recording of No Woman, No Cry, you know, the big famous version, live version that's been put out there. So I saw that concert broadcast on TV. Well, anyway, I'm 12 years old. I think it was around 1979. My mum and I believe we were in Westbourne Park waiting to get the bus back to West Hampstead from there, the 28 bus. Lo and behold, I know it sounds like BS, but lo and behold, at the bus stop, there is Bob Marley.
Yeah. And
my mum didn't believe me at first because we were in a predominantly Rastafarian neighborhood, and it could have been someone that looked like him, or, you know, it could have been a mistaken identity, but I was dead certain, like, no, that's definitely Bob Marley. I went, Mum, that is definitely Bob Marley. And there was this, you know, light-skinned, handsome, mixed race dude with a big green beanie, you know, unmistakably Bob Marley, right? So I went, Mum, no, that's Bob Marley over there. He's like, oh, you silly son. I went, no, Mum, really, that's Bob Marley. So she walked over to him with me. I went, excuse me, my son recognized you. Are you Bob Marley? And he said, "Oh yeah, man," and he patted me on the head, and he was just like the nicest guy ever, man.
Right. So it's true.
Where did you meet Bob Marley? At a bus stop? Doesn't sound real, does it? But, you know, if you Wikipedia
Yeah.
Bob Marley, he did indeed live in that area up until 1979.
Yeah.
So it was definitely him. It wasn't somebody that looked like him. It was definitely him.
Yeah. That's a great story. I don't think I've heard that before.
So I was touched by the hand of Bob, you know. Hand of God,
and this
hand
close
of
to Little Richard.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's mental. There's very few people I wish I've met, but you know, Bob Marley, to say like I've met Bob Marley is pretty rad.
Yeah.
I'm pretty chuffed and pretty amazed.
So what?
He's an absolute legend, you know.
Yeah. So what about the legend that's no longer with us now, Mr. Bowie? What was that like in 91?
I knew it. The Bowie. Lovely guy. Super lovely guy.
There was 2 times, wasn't there? So there was that
the first time I met him was with Morrissey, obviously, when he performed at the Forum back in 91 with us, I think. Yeah. I think it was then, or maybe I met him previously then. And it's funny, you know, Morrissey had a friend called Peter Hogg. Right. He was a scouser who talked like that, you know. And he's like, "Hey, David, I want you to meet your younger brother." And he introduced me to David Bowie as his younger brother because I got slightly different coloured eye.
Yeah.
Like in one of my eyes, there's a bit more brown, hazily in it or something. David's is really nuts. Like he has one blue eye with a small pupil and then one blue, I think, with a big pupil or something like that. He looks rad, you know, it's mad. Yeah. So he was super nice, you know, it's like, "Oh, you know, nice to meet you." And I'm just looking at him going, "Wow, this is Bowie," you know. David Bowie. Well, so we get to do the Your Arsenal album, and Mick Ronson, who was part of the Ziggy Stardust, Spiders and Mars band for David Bowie, the legendary setup in the 70s, he's producing our album, and he goes, "Oh, you know, David, he's asked me to get up on stage and play Heroes with him at Wembley." And this was for the legendary Freddie Mercury tribute.
Right, okay, yeah.
And I remember when Freddie died, both Morrissey and I were like, "Wow, this is really, really sad," you know, like he truly was a miraculous, remarkable singer, you know, one of the best. I remember seeing that Live Aid gig, you know, then they just dominated and killed it, you know. It made me, it made me, you know, after that Live Aid performance, I mean, I liked them. I think they were too muso for me when I was younger. Like they were too good. It went up in my head when I was a lot younger. But when I saw that Live Aid performance, I was like, wow, that was unbelievable. Yeah. You know, getting 75,000 people to clap hands to Radio Gaga. You know, ridiculous. But I mean, to command the stage like that, there's no one better. But anyway, so I went a bit off track there. But she said, "Would you like to go?" And I said, "Yeah, that'd be great." I had no idea what I was going to be in for. Okay, so the whole band decides to go except Morrissey. We get backstage, and literally it was like, who is not in this room?
Right.
George Michael was in the room, Elton John, Roger Daltrey, Robert Plant, all the boys from Queen, except Fred, obviously. Yeah. I think Eric Clapton.
Okay.
Bowie. I mean, it was like, I don't know if you ever heard of David Oxtoby. He used to be an artist that he would draw like, you know, Marilyn Monroe with James Dean and Elvis all hanging in a 50s diner. Yeah. He put out a book called Oxtoby's Rockers, you know, which should be paintings of all these people hanging out, you know. Well, it was like an Oxtoby's rockers situation. It was like, who isn't in this room? And then there's just little old us looking around going, there are absolute monsters in this room. And at one point, I'm in a conversation with Robert Plant on my left and Roger Daltrey, who I was a massive Who fan growing up. And we're talking about rock and roll music and 50s and the clubs and stuff.
Right.
You know, Roger Daltrey's like, have you been to the clubs, Robert? And he's like, oh, yeah, I've been to rocking clubs. Yeah, they're fun and blah, blah. And it was like, this is mental. You know, and well, David, you know, we go back to David Bowie. So anyway, David Bowie was in the room and he walked right up towards me and I'm thinking like, hey, what's going on here? He goes, oh, hello, Alan. How are you doing? I couldn't believe you remembered my name.
Yeah. Yeah. Must have been. Yeah.
Second time I met him, he's like, hello, Alan. How you
doing? Yeah,
He said hello to me. I was like, wow, my mind was a little blown, man.
Yeah.
I mean,
that must have been some moment, all right. And then, of course, you toured with him then in '95, didn't you?
Yeah, and he was super nice. You know, I don't know what happened there. That was rather unfortunate what happened. I remember we got on really well with his band as well. And, you know, tour manager came in and was like, boys, and we're all chatting away. He's going, listen, guys, stop, listen. We're not doing the show tonight. This was like 15 minutes before going on stage. You got to pack your stuff up. We're going now.
Right, okay.
And we literally were leaving the building and we passed some of Bowie's band. They were like, what's wrong? What's happened? And we just looked at them and went, don't know, man. I have no idea. Sorry, boys.
So it was cut prematurely. The many gigs had you done on that tour? Handful, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, I remember seeing Morrissey, you know, earlier in that day, and I said, look, you know, a lot of my family are coming to this gig tonight. This was in Aberdeen, Scotland.
Yeah.
You know, I got relatives up there. So my cousins were coming. I said, and I had an old Aberdeen football shirt because, you know, I actually met the famous Aberdeen squad that Alex Ferguson.
Right.
Actually, it's a training session of Aberdeen with Alex Ferguson, Gordon Strachan, Steve Archibald, you know.
Because your dad's from Scotland, isn't he? Your dad's Scottish.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, my dad's Scottish. So I had an Aberdeen football top and I went and saw him. I said, look, Moss, can I wear this tonight? Is it all right if I wear this? He was like, yeah, that'd be fine. So as far as I was concerned, I thought everything was a goer. I had no idea, you know, and he'd left in the tour bus and I think the tour manager had to sort out flights for everyone. It was a bit rough.
Yeah.
I have no idea what happened. I have no idea what happened. But Bowie, he was great, man. He was a really nice fella.
Yeah. It was a shock, I think, for all of us as fans of Bowie when he died, wasn't it, really?
It was, you know, I messaged Tony Visconti, you know, shortly after, just saying, you know, I'm really sorry for the loss of your friend. I know you were pretty close to David. And I said, I had no idea he was that sick, you know.
Yeah.
And a lot of people didn't. He kept it really to himself.
Yeah.
I mean, only 8 people kind of knew.
And his last record was on the money as well, wasn't it? You know, even when he was sick recording it, you know, it was pretty cool. So obviously it must have been, you know, you must have some amazing memories and stories from going on the road with Moz and the other things that led to. You moved to LA, so I'm guessing that it worked out better living in Los Angeles as a songwriter, more opportunities than in London, even though London would still be a big destination for a lot of musicians to live in. But do you find better opportunities in America?
Definitely better opportunities for songwriting in more current mainstream sort of circles. You still can't beat England though for its alternative bands, you know. It must be the weather or something. We've always produced the best.
Yeah, Britain and Ireland, I think.
indie bands.
Yeah.
And I think that'll always be the case. But, you know, the industry's all changed now. And I think, to be honest, you know, the death of selling CDs and vinyl has really hurt the industry so badly. In fact, I was reading an article and it basically said that 88% of music business revenue literally disappeared overnight when they got rid of all the record stores.
Yeah.
Like HMV and Virgin and
Tower.
you know what I mean? Like it's terrible. So unless they get more money generated to the artists and given to the artists through streaming, can I see the industry kind of bounce back to a healthy place? So COVID exactly hasn't helped either. You know, no one can go out and play, and a lot of bands make their money from playing live, you know, selling merchandise there. I don't know, that it's just a different beast now. And everything that's happened has really killed off a lot of alternative music, to be honest with you.
Even though there's been the vinyl revival, who would have thought that?
Well, that's good. I mean, and that's happened because, you know, people are fans of the bands that they're still following. But, you know, you got to ask yourself, is it 16-year-olds that are buying the vinyl?
Yeah.
Or is it the people our age and slightly younger, you know, like, is it the 40 and 50-year-olds that remember the art in collecting?
Buying
the vinyl, you know what I mean?
But it's
I'm pretty fortunate that Morrissey has good fan base that like to buy vinyl. So I've been pretty lucky, you know. I've had people buying my vinyl, for instance, because of that connection, you know. Which
leads us nicely on to the current project that you're working on, which is you're just going under the banner of Alain Whyte.
Yeah, well, I've gone solo. I thought it was about time, and I did have some band members, but some issues happened, and then I just thought, you know what? I really should reach out to Gaz. I've always wanted him to be in the band. And I've always wanted Spenny to be a part of it too. I should reach out to them and see if they're up for it.
Yeah.
And they were, and it was like, well, let's try and make this happen. And then my guitarist, he pulled out because he was moving from LA, I think, to Georgia, Atlanta.
Right. Okay. And who does he played with?
Smash Mouth.
Smash Mouth. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, Greg Camp, great guitarist, and he's still a good buddy of mine.
Yeah.
I don't know, like, we were going to do this gig, and then he said, I'm sorry, I can't do this gig. I'm going to, you know, and I was like, oh no. And it kind of threw me in a bit of a wobbler. And this was before the COVID thing hit.
Yeah.
I was like, you know, I've agreed to do this convention gig. And he kind of pulled out. And that's when I thought, well, shoot, Gary was like, you know, you should reach out to Craig Gannon.
Yeah.
See if he'd be up for doing it. And so I thought, wow, that'd be amazing. I would have asked Boss to do it, but, you know, I didn't want a conflict of interest. I know he still plays with Morrissey, and I know Morrissey wouldn't have approved of that. So that's why I didn't ask Boz, you know. Of course I would love to play with Boz, you know.
I think a lot of people remember that group, Boz, yourself, Gaz and Spenny, as being a proper band. And I think it's...
It was. I mean, in a way it was, because Spenny, Gary and I had been in a band prior to joining Morrissey. So we really were the foundation, I think, of that band. And Boz was kind of like the icing on the cake. He was the mature guy to put the sprinkle on it all, you know, and be able to direct it, you know. So I reached out to Craig anyway, and I just thought, well, I've reformed the original Morrissey first live band.
Yeah.
But the first Morrissey live band could have been all the guys from Smiths bar Johnny, right?
Yeah, they so Joyce on drums, Andy Rourke on bass, and Craig on guitar, which they did one gig, didn't they, in Wolverhampton?
Yeah, they did the Wolverhampton Civic Hall. So I was like, well, you know, Craig played on Interesting Drug and Ask and, you know, Playboys, I think.
Yeah.
I was just like, that's a no-brainer. I should ask him, you know, and lo and behold, he was up for it.
Yeah.
And it's really funny, really, because he could have fitted in with us.
Yeah, he has the look, doesn't he?
He had the look. He had a great quiff back in the day, didn't he?
Yeah.
And I was really amazed and really, really excited that he was up for doing it because, let's be honest, he was in one of the best bands in the world, you know.
True, and he also has a fairly impressive CV as well with the Bluebells and Adult Net and Aztec Camera, obviously. But he was Terry Hall's right-hand man on the solo projects. So I think they did 2 albums together, didn't they? So
yeah.
And also he does a lot of film scores, which I think you've been dabbling in as well of late.
Well, it's funny. He's done more film scores, and I've done more music or songs for TV shows.
Yeah,
similar but different. You know, film score is a bit more intricate.
Yeah.
Credit to Craig on that. Yeah, I've just done quick licenses for a lot of TV shows like Gossip Girl, Chuck, Station 19, Riverdale. Did a lot of, you know, 50s kind of like pop music for Riverdale, you know.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
They call it
cool.
shot oldies.
Okay, right.
Oldies out here in America, but you know, like diner type music, 50s music, you know. I've done
American Graffiti.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect. For Riverdale. But dude, I got to say, Craig is a great lead guitarist. You know, I mean, people say I'm a good guitarist, but I wouldn't say I was strictly a lead guitarist. I'm kind of like the singer-songwriter guitarist.
Yeah.
And
so does it?
I could play some nice stuff, but there are people that are just like really command the lead guitar slot, and Craig is superb. I'm really happy to have him playing with me. He really is and
it takes the pressure off you a bit, doesn't it?
Underrated guitar player, man. He could play. He's equally as good as Johnny Marr, man. So
with this new project, I suppose Craig has taken a bit of the pressure off you on the guitar playing duties. Would that be fair to say? Or he just adds to it?
He adds to it. Yes and no. I mean, yeah, you know, because some of the tracking I've done, I use kind of like the Johnny Marr philosophy in that sense of nice multi-layering. It's not, it's understated stuff. You know, if people to try and figure out what I'm playing, I think they would, you know, like Johnny, they would go, all right, how's he? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You know, it's not straightforward, you know. Sometimes I have really weird guitar tunings and things like that. So it's nice, you know, because I have to sing and play, and I can sing and play guitar and do some pretty intricate stuff while I'm singing. But sometimes if it's a top lead guitar line, there's a different rhythm to what I'm singing. It can be a little tricky. So I could say to Craig, oh, Craig, could you cover that line there? I could,
yeah.
You know, so it's nice to have that. But I'm letting him have a free roam and come up with his own parts. And he's coming up some really tasteful stuff. And then we've been working remotely, so he's been sending me WAV files.
Okay. So will we maybe see?
Email, and then I get the tracks, I load them up, and I'm like really amazed at the stuff he's coming up with, because the different parts or different ideas that I wouldn't have necessarily thought of.
Yeah. So will we see in the future a Whyte Gannon co-write maybe?
Yeah, or Day, you know, Whyte Gannon, or Day and Whyte. I mean, whatever. Yeah, I mean, I'm open to co-writing with the boys. I'm not being a snob or anything like that. But to be honest, I've written a lot of stuff that hasn't seen the light of day, and I want to get it all released.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely am open to co-writing with the lads.
And Spenny's had a couple of jaunts into the songwriting world as well with some tasty tracks in the past, hasn't he?
Definitely. Well, Lost.
Oh, what a classic! Yeah,
One to Receive with Morrissey,
yeah.
and he's done some stuff with I forgot the name of that project he was doing, but it was really, really good.
With an Australian guy, he had a big long beard. I think he looked like something out of the Bad Seeds. Was that a band he was in for a while? I think.
Elvis Snow or something like that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It was a weird name for a band, but like I thought the music was really good. Spenny's a terrific musician. You know, a lot of people don't know that. He's a fantastic piano player.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, as well as being very solid and reliable and tough on the drums, he's an amazing musician. Like he literally went, right, I want to learn piano, and he literally became like Beethoven in 6 months.
Yeah.
It blew my mind, you know, he got so good, you know, and I think rumor was he was practicing 8 hours a day or something. But
really?
He became so good. Like, it was amazing. So
you can see in the 2 remote videos that you've done with this new lineup, Tell Me and Sunny Days, which I think is a fantastic. My favorite is Sunny Days. So I really like that song a lot. But in Tell Me, Spenny's playing the piano in the video as well as the drums, isn't he?
That's right. Yeah, he is. He's showing off his piano chops in that, and that was totally his own part that he came up with, like that, you know. And it's really, really beautiful playing.
And before that, we've had 2 12-inch EPs, The Experiment and A Higher Power. So we're due a 3rd installment, are we, of the EP collection?
Yeah.
Or is that an awkward question?
Say that one again, I missed that.
So we've obviously got the 2 12-inch EPs.
Right.
So we should expect a 3rd EP to add to the collection.
Yes, definitely. Sorry, I missed what you was trying to say.
No, that's all right. Which I presume is it Tell Me going to be the opening track?
It will, but it might be a different version of Tell Me.
Right.
You know, it might be the original version because it's a bit more dramatic. And my only regret with the remote emailing of recording that we've been doing is that we've done about 3 or 4 songs and they fit very well, but they're quite chilled and relaxed. Do you know what I mean? And honestly, we are going to be a kick-ass rocking band. Like, it's going to be full-on loud rocking band. But, you know, a lot of the stuff we did was quite laid back and chilled, which is great. But, you know, it's more like a Richard kind of Hawley.
I got that vibe off it, that it was that kind of crooner-esque jingly jangly.
Gary's just turned me on to his music, and he's absolutely fantastic. I had no idea he was putting out such remarkable stuff.
Yeah.
So the fact that, you know, our new stuff is kind of that ilk or of that style is purely accidental. It wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't deliberate or anything. It just, you know, that's just how it turned out, type thing. But the thing is, we're going to be more of a live rocking band, you know. When we go out and play, it'd be nice to throw in a few, depending on what year it is.
Well, yeah, who knows what the future's going to hold, because obviously I think you were due to play a big convention in LA with this lineup, and I think it was
we were supposed to do it this year, and it would have been exactly 30 years since we went on the road.
Right, okay.
So I wanted to learn up some Kill Uncle stuff, you know, like R. Frank, Mute Witness, or, you know, Interesting Drug, you know, songs, King Lear, and or
the loop would be good.
Or the loop, Get Gary, get out on the double bass and get that back out.
Yeah,
we're hoping to do that, but if we can't play until 2022, maybe it's 30 years since your Arsenal, and maybe that stuff starts coming out.
Yeah, because I noticed
like our original stuff, you know.
There was for a long time you couldn't see that Saturday Night Live appearance from your Arsenal.
That's right.
It wasn't for whatever reason you couldn't watch it on YouTube, and somebody had posted it up there, probably around Christmas time. And I remember watching it, and it still felt as powerful today as it did back in '92. Watching that, the band's there, and it was ferocious guitars, and it just captured that kind of punk attitude I think the band had back then, you know. So '92,
there was a rawness, and you know, credit to Mick Ronson, he did a remarkable job with us because we were pretty rough around the edges, but he made us sound raw in a good way.
Yeah.
You know, like he honed it in and made us sound great. He did a great job on that record, and I can't say nothing but amazing things about Mick as a person as well as a musician. He was a different level. Kev.
Yeah.
I mean, musically, the guy was an absolute wizard and genius, and
a lovely guy to boot.
The most down to earth, and he really had the light in him. You know, there's some people where you're like, he was almost spiritual in a mad way. He just had this really amazing, loving energy.
Yeah.
Spiritual energy. I can't explain that. And maybe that's because he knew he didn't have long left or something. I had no idea that was going to happen. I was so upset when he died shortly after the record. Because
there could have been more to come with that partnership, couldn't there? The Morrissey band and Ronson produced stuff.
It would have been amazing. I think Foxtel and I probably would have been more in your Arsenal direction.
Yeah.
In a
way. Foxtel and I was still
It's a great album, but it's definitely more a chilled record, and it would have been more rocky, I think.
Yeah. The Your Arsenal thing was just a thunderbolt, boom. For a lot of my generation, 13, 14, 15-year-olds, it was like, what the hell is this all about?
Well, you know, people say, what's the best solo album? And I have to be biased, and I have to say Your Arsenal, only because of this, really. Not necessarily songs as such, or production, but when you got something that's right, and that was the only time I think that the band ever got close to being compared in the sense of like the Smiths.
Yeah.
Like it was the only time when it was a real band as opposed to just session musicians coming in and playing on the record. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There was a real connection with Boz, Gary, Spencer, and myself. Whether we all got along with each other at times doesn't matter. You know, sometimes that adds to the kind of
competitive edge.
The competitive edge and the gel of the group. You can't take that away. Sometimes stuff is a perfect fit. And I'd say band-wise, it was a perfect fit then.
Yeah.
The music was very, very consistent. I nearly wrote all the stuff on that record, bar 2 songs. But the 2 songs that Mark Nevin wrote, they fitted in very well with what we were doing. And so, I don't know, it was just a perfect...
The stars aligned.
Yeah. It's like it all aligned, like it did with the Smiths. And that's why the Smiths were so consistent. When you look back at it, the Smiths were so consistent. Why was that? Johnny did all the writing.
Yeah.
And the band remained the same.
Yeah. Which is why this I suppose getting back together with this project will have a lot of will tick a lot of boxes for a lot of people, I guess. That it's
I'm not a fool. I didn't. I wasn't unaware of that, but I just thought, you know what? This has been a long time coming. The fans want it.
Yeah.
They want me to reunite with Gary and Spenny and Boz.
Yeah.
But we couldn't get Boz, so to have Craig is
a bit of a genius stroke, I may say. I have to say it's a genius move. it works. It
it
seems
made,
to fit, you
it
know?
made sense. And to be like, Craig is unbelievable. I can't believe, I mean, that's like a massive coup for us.
Yeah.
I got to be honest, because he's a direct lineage in a way to the Smiths, which is a band I always loved and looked up to. So
Yeah.
I'm a fan of his playing, and
Yeah.
he's a fan of what we did with the Your Arsenal album. So
Okay,
you
right.
know, he really liked it. So it's just a great fit. It just makes sense. And
Natural.
really, I wanted to do it for the fans.
Yeah.
I want to have fun. I just want to go out and have fun. I don't expect to be a superstar or super famous. It's not about that. It's about putting out good art, having fun, doing fun shows, people having a great time.
Yeah.
Throwing out the odd gem that we were all involved in. I mean, that's what it's about, man. You got to have fun. If it isn't fun, don't do it, you know?
Yeah. And obviously you have a huge back catalogue of songs that probably haven't seen the light of day. And you always had that desire to get them out to a wider audience, I suppose, because you've obviously had, I'm guessing some of the songs from the Motivators might spring back up.
Oh yeah, all that stuff is kind of unreleased. So I want to release all that stuff under my name because I pretty much wrote those songs, you know.
And Red Lightning as well. Will we see some of them?
There's a lot of songs from Red Lightning as well that'll be recut and redone, as well as adding new stuff.
Yeah,
I got like 70 songs that are pretty much unreleased over a 30-year period.
70.
Yeah,
70 songs. Okay, so we've a lot to look forward to.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of material, and that's not even including writing new songs.
Yeah,
you know, like The Experiment was a new song, Crossroads was a new song, Oblivion was not, but it never got released under Red Lightning, so I recut it. The Death of Rock and Roll was a new song. A Higher Power was a new song.
Yeah. Born
to Hang was not. That was an old song
that was a song from a band, I think, that were called Snoid, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct.
I'm letting out a few secrets here now. I think I'll probably be hung for giving away a few inside secrets.
Snide was a really great project in the mid-90s with Spencer and Gary and myself. It was a 3-piece band, and we were freaking wicked. I got to say, we were really, really good, but nobody had heard of us.
Yeah, bit of an Adamant sound to some of the songs, maybe as well. Would that?
Yeah, a little bit, like a track like Limbo, which I'll probably recut as well. That's a really, really good song. It sounds a bit Adamant. That's funny. I loved Adam and the Ants growing up as well.
And I don't want to be divulging too many secrets here, but was there a possible time? Tell us a little bit about your connection with another late great, Joe Strummer.
Legend.
Yeah.
Well, Joe married my step cousin and had 2 kids with her. Her name's Gabby Salter. It's her maiden name, but she married Joe. They had 2 kids, I believe, called Jazz and Mercedes or something.
Okay.
Anyway, but yeah, I met Joe several times, and it was really funny. You know, at one point, I think, Gary and myself, we were up for trying to play with Joe, and I said to Joe, and I think the mistake I made was like, Joe, you should really get me and Gary to play with you. It'd be like the Clash, that was probably the biggest mistake I made, was saying that. Of course it won't be like the Clash. The Clash were just the best, know. Why would I say that? Total idiot. I think I meant more in the sense of we would look the part and we would rock hard,
and have the attitude.
But I think Joe wasn't looking for that. He was looking for more of a world type band.
Yeah.
World music kind of band, and that's why he formed, Latino Rockabilly War. Or
that could have been something though. You and Gaz back and Joe Strummer, even if it was just for one project, that would have been interesting.
We would have loved to have done it because we were all big fans of his. You know, I mean, Joe was a lovely fella too, a lovely, lovely guy, and brilliant songwriter. He was asked to maybe produce something off the Maladjusted album around the Maladjusted period.
Okay.
I don't know what happened. Morrissey shied away from using him as a producer, and I think it was because Joe Strummer implied that he'd have to smoke a load of weed or something.
Okay, yeah.
You know, and knowing Morrissey, he's not too keen on anyone smoking, let alone marijuana, you know.
Yeah.
So we kind of put him off Joe, and then in fairness, Morrissey does what he does best. He kind of shied away responding to Joe, and Joe got a bit angry, like, what's his problem?
Right. That would have been interesting to see what he would have produced for Mars, I think, wouldn't it?
I think Morrissey wanted us to do a cover of I Can't Explain.
Okay, right.
But
it never came to light.
No, it never came to light. It's a shame. It's a shame. It would have been a great collaboration, because Joe then heard the Your Arsenal record and really liked it and was up for it. You know?
Yeah.
And then it didn't transpire. And then Joe died in 2001. I mean, he was only 50. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Another one gone too soon, I think. But
20th century legends are all popping their clogs right now, and we're left with what? Garbage. Like, we're left with like
Will.i.am, Robbie Williams.
Well, Will.i.am isn't garbage. I can't knock Will.
No, I'm joking. I
know. No, I'm
Kanye West.
Kanye West.
I just don't get him at all myself, but some people think he's a genius.
He might be in some sort of hip hop production kind of thing, but
yeah,
his need for wanting attention it's a bit much for me.
Yeah, I don't get it at all. But you know, like you said,
I don't either. I don't want to slag the guy off. I don't know him.
Yeah,
but I'm just sick of hearing the usual suspects, all the main corporate players, Lady Gaga, you know, Ariana Grande, Taylor Swift. It's like they're all very good at what they do. I'm not going to diss them. They're all very, very good at what they do.
They're all similar, aren't they? Really.
But they're all
diversity.
Yeah, they're all like similar, and they're all the ones you're hearing about. I just don't like that. I don't like that we're being told what's here. You know what I mean? No offense to those artists; they're good at what they do.
I don't think it comes from our wheelhouse of musical tastes, though. We like a certain, I suppose, fit into a certain bracket of like an alternative guitar music, and I think that's a bit too polished probably for our taste palettes. Would that be fair to say?
It's not that. It's just they're part of the corporate machine, and the corporate machine, like the wealthiest people in the world running the world's market. You know, it's a nickname for those people, you know. New World Order or whatever you want to call it. But you think about it, there's probably 8 people in the world that are running the world's market.
Yeah.
And they're the richest people in the world that you'll never know of, but they're running the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's a little bit the same with, you know, the music awards, the Grammys and this and that. It's all the same people you've already heard of.
Yeah.
There's nobody new coming up through the ranks. And new indie bands aren't being heard because, you know, top 40 corporate stuff is ruling the airwaves. It really is. This is like the payola scandal times a million right now, what's happening in the music industry. Yeah. It's an absolute travesty. It really is.
And is there any bands that you kind of tip or you like that you might tip us a nod and a wink to, that you might think is going to come up through the ranks that we should keep an eye out for? Anybody that takes your fancy at the moment?
There's a great Scottish band And I joke, but the boy in the band is called Connor White.
Right.
Spelled the same surname as mine.
With a Y instead of an I, yeah.
Yeah, and I often joke and say he's my cousin. We're not related as far as we know, but maybe we are related in some sort of lineage somewhere.
Yeah.
But he's in a band called the Moon Kids.
Okay.
They're from Scotland, I think from Glasgow. They're a really good indie band. I really like those boys, and I really hope they go on and do something, you know.
Yeah, okay.
I tried to tip them onto Alan McGee. I was like, Alan, you should sign these boys. They're great. But, you know.
They're ones you recommend?
Yeah, I like the Moon Kids. The singer has kind of like a Liam Gallagher kind of swagger about him, and
yeah,
they're a really great band. They got good attitude, and I like their music. They're really good. They're really good. The Moon Kids. I think they're my tip.
Right, good tip.
Coming up the ranks. Yeah.
So, the Alain Whyte band, if we want to call them that, we have some, and by the sounds of it, a lot of tasty things to look forward to in the future. Some new releases coming through, and maybe another video at some stage.
Maybe, but you know, our next step now is to press up the records for the Tell Me EP. So I guess this is a transitional period, because the first two EPs was mainly me with Greg Camp. Dean was drumming. Dean Butterworth was drumming on a lot of that stuff, and I think I was doing the bass, to be honest. All the guitars, pretty much, and singing. So it was just mainly me and Dean. A lot of the recordings.
Okay.
On there, and then I was playing. I had a bass player called Wayne Whitaker.
Right.
I nicknamed him Billy the Kid. He's a great bass player. And I had Greg Camp playing guitars with me, and then I had a drummer called I've forgotten his last name, but Darren, and he was a really great drummer. But it just, I don't know, it just kind of fell apart somehow, I think, due to things. And so now I have a new lineup, which makes sense to have the original Morrissey band.
Yeah. And
Kenny and Gaz, because it's something I've always wanted to reform in a way.
Yeah.
And then the added bonus of getting Craig in, it just made sense. So that's it. It's a transitional record now to this lineup, and hopefully from here on out.
We're getting the band back together.
Well, it makes sense. Like I said, we want the fans to have a great time, and we want to have a good time. And if we have a good time, then what's the point in doing it? You know.
And so, you've also a load of songs that you want to get out there. So
yeah, it just seems silly. It seems silly. I've written all these songs, some dating even back to 1986, you know, that never seen the light of day. You know, over a 30-year period, I've written so many songs that never got released. You know, so I went through all these songs and I was like, well, I should redo this one, redo that one. And I've embellished on some of them.
Yeah.
And I just want to get it released. It seems a crime for them to be shelved away. You know, like, last thing I want is to leave this planet and never released all these songs that maybe people would enjoy listening to.
Well, I think I know from just looking at the general feedback since this has come out last year. Was that when it kind of dropped? Would have been before Christmas? I think there was a general consensus from a lot of people that, you know, your songwriting has been missed, shall we say. So I think there's been a lot of people pining for your style, which is, I suppose, a nice compliment to get if you read any of your reviewers comments. It all seems to be quite positive, you know.
They've been so positive, and it's funny. I think, recently I did 53 songs, like in lockdown. Like I was doing a song a day, and some of them were a lot of them were songs that I co-wrote with Morrissey, as well as my own stuff, and maybe the odd cover of songs that I like. And I think it made people realize, wow, those Morrissey songs, like I never realized that that's kind of guitar parts you were playing, or, I never realized how great that song really was. You know what I mean? It made the song shine, and it made me realize just how good Morrissey's lyrics are.
Yeah.
So
there's a wealth of work there to be probably reassessed and reloved, and people coming back to some songs that they'd probably forgotten about for a long time.
Well, I mean, it's interesting. A lot of people, have said comments like too as well, like, wow, that tune would have been great for Morrissey, Well, the sound of Morrissey I was the main songwriter for a lot of the Morrissey solo stuff. So go figure, it's going to sound a little bit like Morrissey's music. Right? It's my style. I can't, know.
Yeah.
That's not going to change.
There was a couple of songs you did that I thought were slightly Ian McCulloch-esque as well. Would that be fair? You're a bit of you're a big Echo and the Bunnymen fan, I believe, aren't you?
Yeah, I am a big fan of theirs, and there's no secret about that. It probably bled into
a song or two.
Influence. Yeah. And that's all right. The Bunnymen are the best. They're a phenomenal band, and they're still fantastic. And weirdly enough, I think that one of their best albums is The Fountain.
Okay, a later one, yeah.
Yeah, I like their later stuff a lot. Evergreen and The Fountain are two fantastic records, and that's excluding Ocean Rain. I mean, God, dude, I think I prefer their latter stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of their earlier stuff, to be honest. You know what I mean? I've got to be honest. I think they're on fire, the Bunnymen.
So an influence on your writing style as well.
A little bit, yeah. I mean, it's weird. People say I sound like Ian McCulloch, and it's not intentional.
Yeah, that's not a bad compliment to have, though, I think.
No, I'm not gonna shy away from that. He's a great singer, and a great frontman. Great writer too. Fantastic.
Yeah. So, Al, I think we're going to wind it up. It's been an absolute pleasure catching up with you again after all these years. And I think hopefully by the time this interview airs on the show, we'll have a new piece of plastic wax in our hand and a nice sleeve with your good self, Mr. Gary Day, Mr. Spencer Corbin, and Mr. Craig Gannon adorning the back of it and all adding their lovely little licks to it. So I think we've a lot to look forward to, and I can't wait to hear the rest of this stuff. And what's to come with this project. I think there's a wealth of stuff for us to enjoy and look forward to, I think.
It's exciting, and we're constantly writing. Like, I've written a new song, and Gary just sent me the WAV files to the bass the other day, and he's now sent it on to Craig. So I'm waiting to hear what Craig will do to it, and then Spenny will drum on it. I mean, it takes time, but
yeah. Well, you're all in different parts of the world, aren't you? So
yeah, but it's nice, it's nice that technology can allow us to do that in this time where we can't get out and actually play. But I'm hoping that we get to do a few shows. I'm looking for a booking agent. I'm also looking for a label in UK and Europe to distribute our stuff. But it'd be nice to get a booking agent and get a few gigs under our belt. And then I thought about booking a recording studio and getting a producer in to and cut a record then. Yeah. Maybe redo a lot of the songs, but it'd be more live with overdubs or something, do a Your Arsenal type vibe of recording.
So we might have another second wave of Alain Whyte mania this time, but except for they'll probably all be in their 40s. instead of in their early teens. And I don't know whether they'd be able to chase you down the roads, down laneways, but or alleyways, as the case may be.
Well, I'm glad we're a little bit older and wiser. I mean, I think that mania would be a little bit scary, like
yeah,
in our older age now, even though we still look pretty good. That's another thing. Another thing, Spenny, Gaz, and Craig, we all look pretty good for our age. We maybe got good 10 years left in us.
Al,
we got to do it.
Alain Whyte, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, Kev, man. Love you, brother, and it was.
Hopefully, when things get back to normal, we might see you on these shores again with the boys playing a gig.
Oh, it'd be awesome. We'd love to come over to Ireland. Got a lot of respect for the people there in Dublin. Lovely people. Beautiful country.
Cheers, Al.
Cheers, mate. Take care.